In this video, we'll talk about whether or not it makes sense to actually exit a trade at a loss. And I'm talking about a huge loss. Let's say 50 or 40 or 60%, and whether or not you should just stay in that trade and maybe just add new capital to the market, or it makes sense to actually exit that trade at a tremendous loss. And I've got this question quite a bit because I'd say a lot of people in the training got into crypto right around this point here, maybe a little bit earlier, right? But this isn't the best chart CND, but we're actually going to use this as an example. But let's say that a lot of people got into crypto in 2017, the early part of 2018, right? And they bought at the tops here, and maybe you're down 60 or 40 or 50%, okay? So I'll share how to look at this. To cut to the chase, it's a math issue and it's also an ability issue, okay? It comes down to math and it comes down to your ability, okay? A lot of times what I've noticed, especially for people that are going through the training now, is that it's like anything else. You wish you knew today what you learned, you wish you knew last week what you learned today, right? I say that every single day. I am always learning something new, and I wish I knew what I know today last week because I wouldn't have made dumb mistakes, or I would have been able to make more, or just I'd have a new way of thinking about things, okay? So let's say on CND, let's say for whatever reason you entered CND, and I'm actually going to use the actual number. So let's say that we entered CND. We bought the dip, right? Because, you know, we have the t-shirt. We bought the dip, we have the t-shirt, and we do it every single time. And for whatever reason, we didn't stop out of this trade, but we bought this dip here, okay? And we are now down 47%, okay? Pretty painful. Every time it started to bounce back, we said it's going to moon, right? So as it, and I'm looking at the daily on CND, right? Every time it's going to moon, all right, it's going to moon. Oh, they have some kind of announcement, it's going to moon, and then it just started trading sideways here, where it's at right now, okay? So the question is, the first question is, well, I made a mistake. I didn't stop out. And the first question is, I've learned so much, right? In this whole time, this was, right? This was 56 days. In this last 56 days, I've learned a ton about trading. I've took some capital and I've successfully traded. I'm doing well. So do I take this capital out and do I put it in a play in the market, okay? Or do I wait? Do I not take a loss? I know there's a lot of people out there that says that you hold, you never take a loss. I don't subscribe to that because, once again, this is capital. And if you have the ability to put capital in play based on your knowledge and your experience, then maybe it's something you should consider. But once again, I said this is a math issue, right? There's another important thing. You have to look at this, and I don't think a lot of people know this. They should, but we're down 47% on this trade, okay? So I'm going to put a ray here, and not the guy ray, but an actual ray. So we're going to go here, and we're going to put a ray here because that's where we entered that trade, okay? And we're down right now 47%. But what do we need to make from this point forward? What does this thing need to move to even get to our entry? Well, it needs to move 97%. You see that? This is where a lot of people just haven't, I hope you get this. If you get this, then great, you're ahead of a lot of people, but a lot of people I talk to just don't get the understanding that just because you're down, in order for it to make up that gains, it has to go up 95% from the point that it's at right now. And keep in mind, there's a lot of capital stuck here, so it's going to be a heavy slog to get through that point, right? And then that's just to get to your entry. To make profit, let's say you want to make just 10%, right? We'll put it here. It's got to go up 113% for you to make 10%. And that's not even a true accurate statement on making 10% of your capital, but this is just using rough numbers. It has to go up 113%, let's say 117%, for you to see a profit. Now, the question is, and this is crypto, right? That could happen in a day. That's what's sad about this market sometimes. You can see this run up. This was 3 days of activity and it went up 309%. So it could happen in 3 days. I'm not saying it doesn't, but let's just say that I'm going to, in air quotes, there's rationality, which there is not any rationality in this market, but let's just say that it makes it slow climb up, okay? So it's slow climb up here, and let's just say it takes here. Well, let's look at how long it took to get down, okay? So it took 37 bars, 37 days to go down here, and let's say that it doesn't take as long, but then it takes, let's say, 36 days to get to that point, okay? So the question you have to ask is it ever going to reach this point in time again, this price again? That's the first question you have to ask, which is SYND ever going to get to this price Satoshi level again? I don't know. No one knows. Is it going to get to that point again? That's the first question you have to ask. And then the next question you have to ask is, how long is that going to take? Okay? Is it going to be 60 days? Is it going to be 30 days? You don't know, but just if you look at the chart, how long do you think it's going to take? The other thing that, and we're just talking about upside, what's the downside, right? There's another support level here, you could say 48% down. So if you don't exit now, there's another downside of 42% before it hits another support. Now it's trading in this range on the daily, so there seems to be a good support level here at this price, okay? In this price range, there seems to be a good support level, but that can change in a second. That's not right. So it's not having rose-colored glasses on. It's talking about what is my opportunity here, okay? Now, so just the fact that just because you're down X amount, right? You're down 46%, it has to make up a bigger gain for you to even see, for it to get back to your entry and for you to see profit. So those are the things that you should be thinking about, which is like how long is it going to take to get there? Will it even get there? Is this just an all-time high and it's never going to reach that? If you look at some of the .com charts, or you look at some asset charts, they never reached their all-time high again. So just because it got there doesn't mean it's going to get there again. Even though you're still early in this asset class, it doesn't mean that it's going to get there again, okay? So I'm sounding very negative about it, but you should be negative. This is your capital. You should really look at this and say, is it really going to get to this level? What's that dollar level, right? What's the dollar level on SYND? What is the trading? What's the interest? What's the project? There should be a lot of questions you should be asking, okay? Now, let's talk about the math, okay? Let's talk about what this means, okay? Let's say that you did enter SYND here, and you're considering taking a loss for whatever reason. You didn't stop out, and you're considering taking a loss of 48%, okay? And you've learned a ton. Maybe you're in the training, and you're like, this is awesome. Wow, I wish I knew all this stuff. I'm on my way to becoming a successful trader that can pull capital from this market, okay? So let's go into a spreadsheet. Now, I did this real quick. I tried to find a spreadsheet that helped with this, but I wanted to explain concepts, okay, so that you can get the concepts, okay? So let's say that we bought 30,000 units of SYND, which is about 0.5 Bitcoin worth at 1799 Satoshis, okay? And let's say that, of course, we're down, and let's say we're down to 0.352 BTC, meaning that if we do exit our position now, we will have 0.352 BTC, right? And for some reason, this isn't moving. Let me pause the video and see what I can do here. I think when I'm recording, there it is. Okay. So you'll see here, that means we have a gain or a loss, basically, of 0.1877 Satoshis. Bitcoin, I should say Bitcoin. That's the amount of Bitcoin that we've lost, okay? So that's what we have to make up, obviously. Now, I should mention that if you have the ability to do this, this is how you would do the math. So let's say that you have the ability, you've become a trader that you can reliably project out your winning trades, you account for losses, all of that comes into play, okay? But here's how to think about this at a high level, at a not a strategic level, but a higher level, okay? Which is, if you were to take this 0.352 BTC, how many trades and how long is it going to take for you to make up that, or does it make sense for you to just keep that in there, right? Given all the analysis that you've done and I'm saying you have the ability to do this and everything else, okay? What you have to start thinking about is, here's your starting BTC. Here's your amount of day and trades. So this first up here, I should say, what this is this is basically saying that, okay, if I do 100 trades and I make 1% on 100 trades, this is 1% of 100 trades of this capital, okay? If I make 3% and I do 100 trades, this is what I get for 100 trades at 3%, okay, of this capital. That's the way to look at this, okay? Does that make sense? So that's what I've done, or that's what these calculations are here. And that's kind of the way to look at it, which is like, how many trades do I need to do to make up this gain, or this loss, I should say? How many trades do I have to successfully do? This is just saying successful trades. Do I have to do to make up this capital? Okay. One thing that's not covered in this representation is compounding. Okay. And if you know what compounding is, and I'm covering these concepts that I'm hoping most people get, but I also understand that a lot of people are new to trading. They're new to some of these financial management things. So I'm covering these at a cursory level. Compounding basically means that, well, you start with 3.52 Bitcoin and you make 3% on your first trade. Well, now you have 3.6256 to put into action. And this is also assuming that you're always putting this full amount into action, meaning that you always have this 3.6256 in trades that will increase your BTC. Keep in mind, I'm not even talking about fiat here or anything else. We're just talking about BTC and trading alts, right? So let's say that that's your first trade. Good job. You made 3%. You did your full 3.625 or 3.52 Bitcoin, and you're up 3.625, right? The next day of the next trade, you make 2%, and that's 2% of this number, right? So 2% of this number, and then you're up more, okay? Your next trade, well, you have a losing trade, and you're down 2% off this number, right? Your next trade, you're down again, or the next day, you could say. This is why I say days or trades, right? The next day, on aggregate, let's say you do a series of trades, but on aggregate, you're down 2%. Well, you're down 2% from this number. But then the next day, you're up 3%. Well, you're up 3% from this number, right? You're still down overall, though, right? See how that works? So here you started at 352. Here, well, no, you're up actually. Sorry, 355. So you're up 355. So you're still up, but this is where you kind of I don't think a lot of people are looking at the math and really diving into their trading at this level, and this is what you really should be doing. And I think the reason why a lot of people don't do this is because it's reality. People like to ignore reality. This is reality. This will tell you whether or not you're going to get that Lambo right here. You'll be able to do the math and say, wow, that's a lot of work to get to that Lambo. I don't know what a Lambo costs. No idea. But I assume it's, let's say, I don't know. Let's say it's a couple Bitcoin, okay? Let's say a Lambo is probably a couple Bitcoin. Well, you can do the math here, and you can say, well, if I make 4% on this 3.65, how long does it take for me to get a couple Bitcoin? You can just do the math, right? And this is, so my intention with this video is not to like do the math or anything else. It's more to just move you in the direction of thinking about how to think about whether or not you should exit this trade, and then start doing the math. That's really what you should do. At this point in time, if you're on Sind and you're at this point and you're saying, should I make this up? Your first question is, well, if I stay in this position and I keep that capital in, how long is it going to take potentially to get back to this level? Okay. Always remember there's a downside. The other thing is, do you have the ability to take that capital and actually make it up, right? Are you better off not trying to take that capital and make it up? And for some reason, this isn't loading. So really, that's my answer to this, now that it loaded here, is that you need to do the math. And I covered a couple things here, which is, number one, what's your starting BTC, right? And then think about the mechanics of this stuff, okay? Do you have the ability to do one trade and make 3%? Or is it one trade a day that you make 3%? What does it look like? What does the mechanics of making up that trade look like? And there's another aspect of this that I didn't mention that I probably should have started with, which is the psychological nature of it, okay? This loss might be something that you haven't psychologically got over yet, okay? And maybe cutting this loss right here will help you psychologically get over that loss. The challenge is that you better, if you do take this loss, okay, you have better have mastered your emotional buying of greed and fear in order to not make the same mistake over, okay? And what does that mean? Well, that means you're entering trades and you're not going to be down 48% again, right? You've done, and this isn't one thing I will say, the general advice I would give. Obviously, I'm not a financial planner, but if you haven't proved that you can do this, you're just, what makes you think that you can do this? Meaning that if you haven't done it, you need to prove in numbers, just raw numbers, that you can do this. Otherwise, you're just kind of hoping. Or what has changed that means that you're not going to make the same mistake, okay? And this is just, I can't answer that for you. You have to answer that for yourself, and you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be upfront with yourself and say, yeah, you know what? This sucks. I'm down 48%, and I've done all the analysis, and I really don't think it's going to take 60 days to get there, right? And in 60 days, I can do 20 trades of an average of 4 to 3%, and here's where I'll be, okay? I don't have the math right here, but that's the way to think about this. So, you know, I wanted to just kind of knock out this video without, I probably should have really done a little bit more of a presentation or something along those lines. But my goal was to kind of answer the question here. So start thinking in that way if you're not already thinking in that way, okay? That's the best advice I can give on some of this stuff. Hopefully it's clear. Once again, if you have questions, if there's anything else, just leave a comment down below. You can join the Discord group down below. You can see links to tools that I use as well. And I hope that this answers some of the question around, should you exit a trade at a loss? And it really comes down to the things that I've mentioned here. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.